Welcome back from that musical break, and we have been joined in the studio by a gospel musician, but he's not your regular gospel musician. He's very steezy by the video you've already watched, and his communication and specialist media field operations manager at the Institute of the Democratic Governance, and he's also an international award-winning poet and an author of 2 books. We have been joined in the studio by Richard Patrick Okine and family, but then we have just him in the studio this afternoon. You are welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
You mentioned my second name
Right.
first.
Okay, so Patrick Richard
It's
Okine.
Patrick Richard.
All right, so we have been
Patrick
joined
Richard
in the
Okine.
studio by Patrick Richard Okine. You are welcome again.
Thank you very much.
Right.
It's such a pleasure
Yeah,
to be in the midst of such beautiful people.
Right.
Yeah.
It's definitely
Thank you.
a pleasure having you here. I mean, the last time, you took us through some lessons, and it's definitely good to have you here.
Thank you.
Right. We've learned a lot, so we are putting it into practice.
Wonderful.
Right. Tell us about your gospel background before we go into other matters of you being a poet, among other things. When did gospel music start for you?
Where do I take it from? Actually, I've always loved writing and singing growing up. And I remember when I was in secondary school, I was a member of the choir. I was in Wesley Grammar. I went from 1 to Form 5. And then furthered my education at Makra High School. So I formed a group called the Live Youth. And we used to come together on vacation to act plays and recite poems and, dance to cultural music and so on. And I think that engendered the desire to take music on, but not as a profession. So I used to go into a studio with a very good friend of mine who's passed on, may his soul rest in peace, A.K. Dwell. And we just started putting songs together. So my first album had a blend of some gospel songs and not so secular, songs. But my first gospel album was in London in 2003, and that was entitled Joyful Noise. And it was to give thanks and praise and glory to God. And that was quite successful in the UK. And so, but I gave myself a very long break because I felt that, music is not my thing. I had gone to university to study something different. I work now as a development communication specialist with IDEC. But, if you have the passion for something, you just can't run away from it. And it keeps coming back to you. And so, my wife and I used to minister in our local church in London, King's Temple, ICGC. And yes, we enjoyed touching lives, blessing people with our songs, with our ministration. And so when we relocated to Ghana, we decided to continue.
Okay.
And so in 2017, we came out with Gratification for His Sanctification, which had a very long poem as part of the collection. And our children would actually sing our songs at home, and we thought, they could hold a tune, and they have good voices. And we observed as their voices matured. And we thought, let's get them into the studio, because sometimes they would back us during ministrations in church.
Okay.
But we felt strongly that we needed to get them on board and to form a musical family, a gospel ministry. And so we called ourselves Patrick Richard Okine and Family for the simple reason that, I had started it. And
Drew the meaning.
my first album was a cassette album in 1994. And that was entitled Mama. When, I don't know whether some of you were born.
We
were born.
Some were born.
Right. So, and so I thought, okay, using the experience that I have and the niche that I had carved over the years, maybe I could just maintain the name and bring them on as family, knowing that quite a number of them are ladies they'll be getting married, and they'll go out to the husbands and their own families, and if they so wish to continue with the ministry, they would always come back to us, and if they don't, Patrick Richard Okine and my wife stays on. Of course, she's Roberta, and so then Patrick Richard could be replaced by Roberta, and it still works out perfectly.
Wow. Such a blessed family.
Such a blessed family, and also reading about that, that the music bits, you wrote the anthem for Katanga. You composed it.
Yes.
So the music
that was when I finished my first degree. I was doing my national service in Kumasi.
Okay.
And so it just dawned on me that none of the halls had an anthem.
Right.
And I felt, well, why don't I leave a legacy, for my alma mater? After all, they made me the entertainment chairman when I was there. And, it was unprecedented because at that time, I was also the entertainment chairman for my College of Art, in social sciences now. And, having these two positions, I thought, okay, but the larger one was Katanga University Hall. And so I composed it and presented it to them in 1991. And thank God they didn't pond me because they intended to do that. But I pleaded with the guys and they let me off. Yeah, but several years later, because I thought I was sojourning to the UK, but I ended up spending about 14 years in the UK. And so coming down, I was told they were looking for me to present an award to me for composing the anthem. So in it must have been 2011, they invited me over during the whole week celebrations and presented me with what they call the Order of Katanga. It was a beautiful...
This is like a Hall of Fame, like your name will never die out. It's going to be Patrick Okine forever. Wow.
But I mean, after many years of doing this, how has the journey been really? Bringing in your family and your wife and yourself, how has the journey been, especially after you moved from London and then came to Ghana? How has it been really?
It's been, I would say it's been okay, simply because I hadn't set out to produce commercial music. And so, I mean, you could attest to the fact that even the anthem for Katanga was done gratis, basically, just for the love of it. And releasing Gratification for Sanctification in 2017, the idea was also just to bless and to touch the lives of as many as would listen to the song. So the commercial value hadn't dropped in. Then we've gone on to put out other singles, which you would find on YouTube, Patrick Richard Okine Music. But this very one seems to be enjoying a lot of listening and viewership of the video. And so I'm being told that I need to make something out of it.
Right. It's very important.
But, we'll see. It's all in the hands of God. He leads the way, and we follow. So whatever happens. But it's been great. It's there are lots of gospel musicians, and I'm enjoying what they're doing. They are an inspiration. I sing along to their songs. I have great admiration for even their collaborations with other musicians who are coming up. And I pray that the gospel fraternity will embrace Patrick Richard Okine and family into their midst and support us and come collaborate with us as well.
Okay. But I know you're also a resident pastor. How are you able to manage all this?
I'm not.
Okay, so
my son is.
Your son is. So that's rather for your son.
Yes.
Oh, okay. And how is he able to manage that? I mean, you are here, but how is he able to? Because he's a pastor, you also have to join you sing, among other things. How are you able to?
It's interesting you saying this because he's currently not in the country.
Okay.
He's on vacation, and we've had discussions. And he said, "Daddy, you know the nature of my work. He works in the bank." And he also pastors full-time with Throne Room International. And he says that there'll be occasions when I won't be able to go along with you guys.
Okay.
And so bear with me when that happens, because we need to respect the fact that he's also a full-time pastor. And when we can do with him, we will. And if not, we'll probably find someone in his stead. So That's
What's the way forward? What's the future looking like, really?
It looks phenomenal. It looks great. Patrick Richard Okine and family, I believe, have come to stay for as long as we are received.
Yes.
And we look forward to more songs intended to bless and to touch the lives of people. I don't know whether there are other families who are doing this.
Oh, I've not seen any, really. Yeah.
Well, then it's a novelty, and we thank God for that. But would encourage, parents to support their children when they find not just the ability to sing, but if they have other talents, to help harness, nurture those talents. Because, there's nothing so enjoyable, nothing so, such a blessing than being able to put out your talent and to bless other people.
But finally, before we go, as a father,
yeah,
aside you being a singer, how does it feel working with your family, your wife, your girls, and your son?
Right. Hi, family. Sorry, I'm going to have to say this. It's tough sometimes because when I get the inspiration sometimes, and I just would give the command. Okay, guys, we're going to the studio. We're recording. We're singing this. Okay, come around. Let's rehearse and that kind of thing. And sometimes they're very busy. They're on their phones. They're trying to do, their own things. And oh, Daddy, here he goes again. But what happens is that at the end of it, they enjoy it.
Yeah.
And they say, oh,
That's
Daddy,
very
this is good. This is wonderful. We thank God and we give him all the praise.
The video is great.
Right.
I love the video. It's amazing. And the Afro beats too, they go on.
Yeah. We can create a dance challenge from that. You could lead that.
I saw
But there's already a challenge in
somebody
there.
doing somewhere.
Right, so we follow that, right?
That move was by my daughter Marianne.
Oh.
My wife is Roberta, and then Duke follows, and then Marianne, whom you know, and then Zimran. Zimran is in the medical school, and then Henrietta.
Okay.
Is, and I'm glad that they've all finished their first degrees, before. And
Talent. Beautiful, right. Thank you very much, Patrick Richard Okine, for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you. But you didn't introduce yourselves, apart from Naya, who whose name appeared.
Well, of course, we'll do that. Let's
Right.
close it.
And then we'll do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you too.
Welcome,
Thank you
Patrick.
too
Yeah.
for coming.